Hi. A couple years ago, I made a video about the quantum ocean, which is a device made by Soma Laboratories designed to help people gain inner awareness or a deeper sense of consciousness, deeper connection to consciousness within or cosmically. They kind of leave it up to you what you do with it because it's just a tool. And basically it's a white noise generator in the stereo field, so you'll wear headphones, or that's the recommended way to use it. And you go into sort of a, what they call the quantum ocean space, and into a meditation or trance or something. And it's a way, it's just a way to discover inner peace, is how I perceived it. And in that video I described what it was about, and I kind of gave, at the end of the video, I gave a sort of visual representation of what it might be like to go into a meditation and see visions and fade and manifest. And I kind of implied that I would return to report my experiences. So it's been 2 years or so, and I've had a couple of experiences so far that I thought, well, this would be a good thing to share and follow up. I don't plan to make any more. I'm not going to be their advertiser or anything. But I do want to share my experiences with this device because it's significant, and it's intriguing. One of the things I discovered was that I had to grab the manual because in the manual, Vlad Kramer, the inventor, recommended some uses for it. He has 12 or 13 different, or 20 different practices to use. And I wanted to report about which ones worked for me, because there are so many different ways. One of them is putting it on your home stereo and dancing to it, dancing to white noise. And I found that one interesting, but there was another one, number 11. It's called Discover the Living Stream in Yourself. And it basically recommends that you listen to it for a little while, then turn it off and use what you've learned in that session to go within yourself without listening to the QO, the quantum ocean, which I find interesting because that's kind of what I wound up doing anyway. I wanted to know if the things I was experiencing, if the states of meditation that I was experiencing while I was listening to that could be achieved just by sitting in the chair. Because while I do have an affinity for technology and allowing different energies to affect me while I meditate to see what happens, I do feel a little suspicious of using a technology to do something that people have been doing for millennia without it. So for about a year after I made that video, I used the quantum ocean and meditated for about a half an hour every morning, and sometimes that day I would listen to it again. It was my way of getting ready for work and a way of giving myself time, rather than just getting up, putting on clothes and going to work. I carved out a little space, and it was timed. I had a timer. I'd sit on my phone and it would buzz when my half hour was up. So it was a discipline that I used to find some sense of self before my day started with a bunch of other people that I had to basically serve. You know, that's how I view my work. So that was very helpful. And I wanted to know if I could do it without the quantum motion in my ears. Because there was a tendency to be focused on the sound and going on the sound journey rather than discovering what was inside of me. I found that to be my response to listening to music, and I think that's it's how I trained myself to listen to music. I listened to music deeply my whole life, so this was a way I had to learn not to go too deeply into the music. I had to let it sort of be a distraction from the words and the images that I was producing myself. So I used that as the springboard for silent meditation, and I could go anywhere without a device and meditate with my eyes closed for any amount of time. And it's interesting. I found that I did have trouble disciplining myself when I didn't have a device kind of managing me. But after that, I discovered my chiropractor suggested another way of using sound as a tool for self-searching. And it's another program designed by another organization called the Monroe Institute, and they offer recordings online through their app that you can listen to with headphones, and each one of these is guided. There's one, it's not guided verbally, it's guided, it's programmed, I guess, with different intentions. So one's for relaxation, one's for deep meditations, one's for I can't remember. I will bring you to the app and show you in a few seconds. But I was curious, based on my experience with the quantum ocean, how this was different. And I tried it for a while, and this has a much more consumer-driven approach, because there's a free version through the app, but then there's some levels that you have to pay for. And this Monroe Institute is a real institute run by real people in a different state, and they offer courses and workshops and things that you pay for. And once you download the app, you get all their emails. So I felt, I think this is beneficial, because there were some states I got into just listening to their timed meditations that I haven't had before. Is it because I relied on their time and I didn't have to sit on my phone? It would just turn on, and I'd set 10 minutes, and then it would just turn off after 10 minutes. I'd be like, boom, I'm done. The mind is a difficult thing to track. So I stopped using that app, because I just didn't feel like I didn't want to be one of their consumers, even if it helped me. I didn't. Why should I pay for something that I can do myself? So that brings me to, before I go into the technology and just showing you the technology, it's a question about, do I need help to meditate? Do I need to go to a yoga class? Do I need to go to a meditation class or a healing class? If I can't concentrate more than 10 minutes a day on my without having some intrusive thoughts, is that fine? Is that where I'm at? If wanting, do I want to be any further along, in a higher level because it's been suggested to me that I should be, or that I have the potential if I just had a little bit of help? It's a question that we all need to ask ourselves, and we need to ask these questions before we go ahead and buy a quantum ocean or pay for a subscription to the Monroe Institute. It's fine to pay for anything you want to pay for. If it's fun, and if it gives you a sense of enjoyment of life, then why not? If you have the money, if it's not putting you in the hole, why not pay for it? I prefer not to pay a subscription and just keep doing it. Some months I don't use it, and I feel like I've wasted my $13 or whatever, compared to buying a device that will probably last for a very long time because it's just electronics. There's no gears or anything that'll strip out. I do need to buy a new pair of headphones, but I need better headphones to hear the sound better. But it's a serious question, because I could make a white noise generator myself. It's very easy. And I think what they're doing with the Monroe Institute is using certain frequencies that activate certain areas of the brain, so that 438.6 is the very frequency that your brain vibrates at when you meditate. And so they induce that with their maybe binaural beats. Maybe they figure out some way to create that. I don't know, but I can do that myself. There's a program on my computer that helps, that you can use to create any tone you want. I'll show you that one too. So it's a question you have to ask yourself. I think even Vlad Kramer would agree that if you don't want to use the QO to gain spiritual awareness, then you don't have to. He even says so. He says the QO is just a tool, and it's the important part of it is your brain. I think I want to read that. I want to find that in the... Give me a second. I'm going to pause here and read where this section is. QO is not a fairy tale magic box for a higher consciousness. QO device is just a tool comparable to climbing equipment. It won't bring you to the top of the mountain by itself. You have to do the significant work, spend significant time, and have a kind of talent, a certain predisposition for this type of experience and practice. So, I appreciate that, and I think he would. I don't know if he will even watch this video. It's not meant to dissuade people from buying his device or persuade them to buy it. It's just a reflection. So let me show you this app first. Here's the Monroe Institute Expand app. And as I'm scrolling through it, I want to return to a point I was getting to earlier. I got a little diverted. I diverted myself when I was talking about how my impression was formed of the service. I did want to make it sound like I was complaining that this company was offering me a service and charging me for it, because obviously that's what companies do. And it's real people doing real jobs, and I don't begrudge them their pay, especially if they're offering something as beneficial as
meditation. But it does, I think, color your impression of your meditation when you don't really have to do the work. You can just select a state you want to be in or a topic you want to address, like sacred relationships, secure in the knowledge that a scientist has crafted it for your benefit. So the fact that they offer this streamlined experience where they've chosen topics for you and the environment in which those topics are addressed, but then give you the freedom of choosing certain parameters, is a way of offering a person a sense of security and ease, almost like emotional support. Like, I don't have to know exactly what I want. I can just sit and listen, and someone else will take care of it for me. But you see up here at the top, I do need to pay for some of those services. And that brings me back to the point I was trying to get at earlier, because I know how businesses work. As a business, you don't want to give away the good stuff. You offer the stuff that you haven't had to work so hard to make so that you get paid for the stuff that you did have to work hard to make. So the query in my mind is, have I completely manufactured the good experiences I've had using this app based on the suggestion of this streamlined service with the pretty pictures and the nice sounds? Or does this sonic entrainment actually work well enough for me to subscribe? Will I get better subsonic tones if I pay them? This is just an example of one of the selections. You won't be able to hear the tones through my tablet speakers. And the further question I have more deeply is it worth worrying about all that when I could just not have a tablet in front of me, go out into nature and meditate according to my own parameters for free? The evidence to prove the claim that these subsonic tones actually do program you into specific states is scant. It is intriguing, and I have looked into it. So what I'm going to do next is go up on my computer and show you the process of reproducing some of those tones. Right now I have a program open called Pure Data. Actually, mine's called Per Data. See this little kitty cat with the eye patch on it? This is a free program and open source, so people are free to modify it according to whatever they want. So I've chosen this version of it from my uses, and it's basically just it's a digital synthesizer. So this little OSC stands for oscillator, and you push this little button here, and you can hear sound. So that sound is 181 hertz. That's 181 cycles per second. And if you go on the internet and look for binaural beats, you'll learn all about it. Now, I'm not saying the Monroe Institute uses binaural beats, but these are the kinds of processes that people use to affect your state with sound. So the idea is sound in the range of 1 to 4 hertz is produced in the brain when you are in a state of deep sleep or relaxation. So the idea is they want, the scientists have figured out that if you use 2 tones, 2 pitches that induce that sound and train that sound to your brain, then you can create this sense of relaxation. Or there's 4 to 8 hertz. They've studied it. It's right there with bullet points and numbers. Very convincing. So what I'm going to do is change these numbers here. Well, let's just use 181 as the base. And my understanding is if I go and change it to 185, and connect these together, then we will have a tone. You hear that waggling? If you were wearing headphones, and if this was stereo, it's not actually stereo. Both of these are going into the same field so that it's creating this wobbling in both ears. But if I had created this so that one was going into one ear, the other was going into the other, then you would have a 4 hertz tone in your brain. And then you could underlay that with music or a bird song or whatever. That is the idea. In fact, one of the other ideas with this program, you can even see this little word noise. I can just connect to that. And I got some noise. White noise. Now, this is definitely not what Soma Labs has done. They've gone through extensive research. They've developed a circuit that creates a really special effect, and no one else can create that just by pulling it up on the computer screen, or even making it themselves in their home. Maybe they could, I don't know, but this has some provenance. And Vlad is a credible music scientist and a spiritual seeker too. So I tend to believe him. But I did want to use this as an introduction to a discussion about what is white noise and how do you visualize it, how do you create it. So I'm going to go down to my workbench and make a white noise generator myself to show you. I've made this little circuit here to show, it's on this little board, to show how easy it is to create white noise. And you can't hear it right now, but I'm picturing it up here on this screen. That's an oscilloscope, and I'm feeding the signal from this circuit up there. And I'll focus in on that in a second, but first I want to zoom down and show you, basically, it's just 2 transistors, these shiny little cans here, and 3 capacitors and 3 resistors. Basically just 8 components. That, and really only one of them is doing the work. It's this little transistor right here that I'm feeding electricity through. And the other things are just sort of amplifying it so we can actually hear it and see it on the screen up there. Or am I pointing up there? So I didn't invent this, obviously. I learned about it from Thomas Henry, who wrote this book, The Noise Generator Cookbook. And not only does he describe how it works and why it works and the fundamentals of electricity, but he provides little schematic drawings for me to follow. So I just followed this drawing and I made that circuit. And it worked. And what it's doing is producing what we think of as random voltages. Every little peak here is a voltage, a spike of voltage that does not have a pitch. So I'm gonna go down here and turn on my speaker, because I also have it piped through my speaker. So obviously that's white noise, and that's what it sounds like, and that's what it looks like. Just to give you an example of what some other kind of noise would look like, I've made here, let me just turn on this. I've made this little circuit here. This is the same concept. This is a different kind of oscillator, but very similar amount of components, and this one down here amplifies. So all I have to do is attach it to power source like that. I have a little speaker here, and I can change the pitch.
So that's what basically an inverted triangle wave looks like. Very different from
when I attach it to the white noise. I'm hooking it up right now. There you see that fuzzy line. It's fascinating to me that this looks so chaotic, but it sounds so soothing, or can sound soothing at a low volume. To me, it kind of looks like a transmission line. And that's something I hadn't mentioned before, but the QO, the Quantum Ocean device, is built so that two people can hold it. There's two sets of pads, so that maybe they could communicate with each other, or maybe amplify each other's energy, or whatever their imagination comes up with. That's the fascinating part about the Quantum Ocean device, is that it's so open to experimentation and play. And so what I've found works best for me is that I've separated out the active explorations I do with the QO, the mind and soul work, from the silent meditations I do as part of my spiritual practice.
Well, I wanted to make sure that I reiterated that I'm not advocating for either one of these companies or trying to debunk their claims. In fact, I'm on board with both of them. And I believe if you use technology for healing, or use some other process, or make something up, all healing is good, right? So if you've stuck around this long, I think that it probably indicates you have some interest in it. So I want to take this opportunity to advocate for you to turn off the computer and do some healing for yourself. And this video was just a way for me to kind of close the loop on a process that I started a few years ago, and to talk about quantum motion, because there's really something interesting about that device and the philosophy behind creating it. So if anything, I'd like to suggest that you go to the Soma Labs website and investigate this for yourself. They have a chat room for all their devices, including the Quantum Ocean. So thank you for sticking around and watching this video. Da-da-da!